Welcome to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts show. This is the show that covers all phases and aspects of divorce so that you can avoid common, costly, and sometimes permanent mistakes and have a smarter, saner, savvier divorce. I'm Marcella Cray, Client Care Manager for Divorcetown USA, which is the wonderful community that is bringing you this show today. And I'd like to introduce our host, Lisa Decker. She's also the CEO and founder of Divorcetown USA, as well as Divorce Money Matters. Lisa is a certified divorce financial analyst and a real estate collaboration specialist in divorce. So welcome, Lisa. Tell us what we're going to learn about and look forward to today.
Thank you so much, Marcella. And I want to make sure everybody knows Marcella Crite, my extraordinary assistant and producer of this show. And, I'm so happy that we are able to work on this together because she is my right hand and my left foot, as I like to say. And today we have a very special guest, a dear colleague and friend, Dr. Deborah Wilder. And Deborah is going to be speaking about an interesting topic today, how to be your own Valentine. You know, this can be a very difficult time when you are going through divorce or newly single, or maybe you've been single for a while. Deborah's going to give us some great information on how to be good to ourselves. And she is a psychologist, a divorce mediator, a divorce consultant, a parent coordinator, and a reunification therapist who has worked with individuals, couples, and families in crisis for over 34 years. She knows her stuff. Mm-hmm. Before starting her practice 28 years ago, she worked in a private psychiatric residential facility for children and adolescents, a college counseling center, a county mental health center, and at the Veterans Administration, specializing in post-traumatic stress disorder. And, sometimes even divorce can bring on some of that. So Deborah can work with people in a variety of modalities and in a variety of situations. And we are just so excited to have her here today. She is a member of Divorcetown, the sponsor of this show, and also our sister organization that we partner with, the Amicable Divorce Network, as well as a registered civil and divorce mediator with the Georgia Office of Divorce and Dispute Resolution. And she also has personal experience with divorce, and that has helped her to become even more compassionate and a trusted advisor for those going through this time in their lives. So Deborah, welcome. We're so glad to have you here. This is a really tough time, as I mentioned. Everybody around you may be talking about, the special day that they're having and what they're doing for Valentine's Day. And it can get very lonely for folks. So as we approach what some see as the dreaded holiday, what can you say, share with us are some of the best ways to love and care for yourself as you're going through divorce or already divorced, as I mentioned, especially around Valentine's Day, not just Valentine's Day, but especially this time?
Yes, and let me just say I'm very, very happy to be here. I always enjoy spending time with both of you and this kind of a platform to be able to share information that will hopefully be helpful to people going through a rough time. And yes, divorce is rough, rougher for some than for others. So around this time, as soon as the Christmas holiday season is over, then bam, you get right into Valentine's Day. Like the next day, what's on the shelves. And so it can be a reminder of what we don't have. And, as we go through any kind of difficult situation, it is important to take care of ourselves. And there's some specific ways that we can do that, regardless of Valentine's Day or anything like that. First and foremost, certainly to take care of yourself physically. Try to get as much sleep as you can, which is hard for people under normal circumstances, but, eat well, get some exercise, all these things that we really all know about. That's for the physical. I think sometimes people confuse self-care with self-indulgence, and self-care is very, very important. Self-indulgence is good too sometimes, unless it involves, extra glasses of alcohol or different drugs. Self-indulgence, you got to be careful with that, or retail therapy, you got to be careful with that as well. But there's self-care, and that involves, prioritizing. It involves not reinventing the wheel, seeking support, Just being good to yourself, making sure that you can say no sometimes. I think sometimes we get in a position where we want to help and we don't want to, and saying yes makes us feel important and worthwhile and all those things. So being able to say no is important, as well. Minimizing your tasks. Also, try to be the best person you can be. You don't have to be perfect. It's not about striving for perfection. It's striving to be the best that you can be under the circumstances that you have. Being able to be compassionate to ourselves is very, very important. When we go through a divorce, there's so many reasons why people go through divorce. Some people, it's a mutual decision and they can remain friends and care for each other and be involved in their lives. That's under the best of circumstances. Sometimes there is tremendous betrayal and we feel a great sense of loss of self-esteem and self-worth. And sometimes we just feel like we've got to pick ourselves back up. And there are so many ways to do that. And Marcella and Lisa, as you've talked about over and over again, there are so many resources there. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel and we don't have to go through these difficult things alone, even though ultimately we do go through life alone. But at a time, let's say Valentine's Day, we can do some things and sort of make it our own. And I took a few notes here because I was thinking, the idea of Valentine's Day doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a partner, and the definition of love, there's romantic love, there's familial love, there's friendship love, all different types of love. And so some things that around this time that people can do is be grateful for the love that we do have in our lives. And that's not to assume that everybody does. I certainly have worked with a number of people over the years who let's say, don't really have a supportive family, who feel very isolated and very alone, who don't have friends whom they can count on. And being lonely and isolated is tough. We're still in, unfortunately, not at the tail end, but hopefully we're getting closer to the tail end of COVID, but these past 2 years have created a tremendous amount of loneliness, everyday loneliness and isolation. So it's not just Valentine's Day, but when you have something like Valentine's Day, it's like, oh gosh, some people just really have a hard time not thinking of what they don't have in their lives or who they don't have in their lives. So I have found it very helpful to be intentionally grateful on a daily basis, from being grateful that I wake up every morning and that, my family members wake up every morning. And I don't think that's anything that any of us take for granted. So there are some specific things that we can do to help us be prepared for when life gets rough and help us. But again, there's a lot of support. There are support groups like Divorcetown USA, opportunities for really being able to reach anybody whom we might need, and to learn to lean on each other and to be there, as best we can. There's something that I read, I didn't make it up, but I read something that, people aren't necessarily going to remember what you say or what you do. People are going to remember how you make them feel. And so to be able to, even when we're going through a rough time, to be the kind of person who makes someone feel better. And in the process of doing that, that's uplifting in and of itself. So aside from the general, take care of ourselves information when it comes to, let's say, something like Valentine's Day or special days, there are some other things that we can do. And I can go into some specific things.
Yeah, let's hear, what are some particular situations? What came to mind as you were talking is, if you don't have a pet, that might be the day to indulge and get yourself a pet and know that that animal is just there to love you. And that can help a lot in those kinds of situations. It can be tough. Honestly, when you feel isolated, it really can be tough, but I'm with you. Gratitude can bring you out of almost everything. And I've used it a lot in my life. So I agree with that technique. That is just beautiful. And also helping someone else, when you are seeing the reaction that the joy on someone else's face when you've reached out and just touched them. That's a blessing for them and for us. So what are some other techniques that you can share with us?
Yeah, that what you just touched on is doing something for somebody else. The act of giving is really, it's beneficial in so many ways, not just to the recipient, but more so sometimes to the giver. And there are things you can do. Maybe there's a neighbor, an elderly neighbor who's alone. Bring that neighbor a box of candy or some flowers. Donate some teddy bears to a children's hospital. To volunteer, to do something that takes the thought of what we don't have, like a partner, and focus on what we can do to help other people who may be struggling. And in addition to that, to focus on what we do have, the different kind of loves we may have in our lives. You talk about a pet. There's nothing like, a pet, especially, I guess, a dog. The dog is always going to be happy to see you no matter what. Always. You'll
Yes.
always have a little warm body that's going to be there for you. Maybe you have kids and you can do something special with your children on Valentine's Day. Celebrate the love of your children, family or friends. Maybe you can plan a get together with friends. You can do the planning and invite people and get together, or just spending some time doing something. That's going to be helpful, again, rather than sort of wallow if we get to that point in losing a partner, or not having a romantic partner. That may come someday if you want it again. But in the meantime, to be grateful for, be aware of what we do have in our lives, and pay special attention, again, to other people who may be struggling. Again, it could be a neighbor or kids in a hospital, or even volunteering somewhere else. So those are some things that can be very helpful, as we go through something like this. And one more thing that I think, and I read about it, writing a love letter to yourself is something that can be a very, very special endeavor. And it's not just a quick write. It's you want to handwrite it, not type it on the computer. And you want to you can get some special stationery or a card. And the first thing is address, dear who. How do you want to address yourself? What is there, a pet name from childhood that brings back good memories? Did someone call you sweetheart, or just a pet name, something that is a warm introduction to yourself, and address yourself so in a way that brings back some positive memories. And the first paragraph is to welcome yourself with a cherished memory. Do you remember when this happened? Do you remember when you did this, and what it felt like? And really kind of going into detail about what happened, what it felt like, what it looked like, and kind of going down memory lane. And the second paragraph, I took notes here because it was just something that seems very, very deliberate. The second paragraph is to embrace yourself with words of encouragement. Lift yourself up. Who better than ourselves? Who knows better than we know what we need to hear, what we want to hear, what we need to read, and what we need to see? We know better than anybody. And write it down. Declare your love for yourself. This is a love letter to you. Tell yourself all of the little details that make you you. Point out your attributes, your silly characteristics, some flaws, whatever it is, your quirks. You're writing a love letter to yourself. Remind yourself in these paragraphs that the things that you want to remember every day from now on. Remember the special things. What makes you special? Again, you might have been in a relationship where your partner did tell you these things. Many times we do suffer after divorce, and we struggle with self-worth. And maybe we haven't heard things from our families of origin. Maybe we haven't heard things from our spouse or other family members. Now is the time to write down and to address what you want to hear.
Let me interject one thing there, Deborah. The thought comes to mind of, maybe you were in a relationship where you were told the opposite, and you were denigrated and you were pulled down. And now you especially need to pull yourself up and remind yourself of all that is wonderful and special about you to overcome what you've been through. This can be especially powerful in a situation like that.
I'm so glad you said that, Lisa. That's so true. It's easy, you know, the adage, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. I disagree with that. You know, they're just like you're saying, unfortunately, there are many forms of emotional, even, you know, abuse, maybe not that far, but plenty of emotional abuse, physical abuse, and whatever it is, even little digs here or there can break someone down. So absolutely, Lisa, these are words that are supposed to be uplifting, healing. We've got to not rely on someone else to bring us the flowers. We've got to plant our own seeds and nourish our own garden. And if someone else brings us flowers, that's fine. But it's, you know, most important for us to be able to do these things ourselves. And when we end this letter, end it in a way like, love you always, you know, or you've got this. And then when you're done with the letter, and you can write as many paragraphs as you want, of course, fold it up and put it in a nice envelope. Put it in a nice envelope and address the envelope in a special way, you know, however you want to my inner love, to you know, a very, very special person. And you keep it around and read it as many times as you want to, as many times as you need to. This is an authentic ability to present the love that you have for yourself, because again, that's sort of, maybe it feels like it's indulgent, and it is indulgent, but in a healthy way. And that is a great way. Just, you know, someday maybe we'll get love letters from other people. If we don't, that's okay. But it's a wonderful path to healing. And we've got to start doing some of this from the inside sometimes if we're in a certain situation.
Oh, I just love that. Just love that. Write a love letter to yourself for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
What a healing opportunity, and a way to help yourself remember your worth.
Yeah.
And what you bring to the world and how you need to give that to yourself. You know, when we talked about, mentioned volunteering, so many of us, and me included, I had to learn this the hard way. I've always been a giver. Give to this one, give to that one, take care of everyone, women especially. Don't we always do this? But it's so hard to receive. And one day someone said to me, you know, you are not allowing the other person the gift of giving if you don't receive sometimes.
Yeah. And
it is a gift to give. And it is a gift to receive as well. So allow others to help you in your time of need. And I had to step back and think about that. And then I realized I really wasn't giving others that gift of giving. You can't always be the one that's getting the gift by giving to others. I know that sounds crazy, but it really is a gift to give and to receive, and allow others to share in that joy. So remember that, especially for those of us who just always trying to please everyone and help everyone else, allow others to help you, ask for what you need. And that's been quite a journey for me. And I will tell you, sometimes in the getting and the receiving, I have sat and cried the most amazing tears of gratitude, because it is so wonderful to know that others care. So don't forget that, folks. Let yourself receive as well as give.
And I wanted to talk to you also, Deb, sorry about that, about when you were talking about self-care, that is not the same as self-indulgence. And I remember someone explained it to me like it's a tanker. It's an oil tanker that carries gas. But the most important tank of gas in that truck is the one that's running the truck. And if the truck doesn't have any gas, it can't go. So it doesn't matter how full it is. And you made me think of that if we don't take care of ourselves and we don't look after us, especially if we're parents, how are we going to look after anyone else in our life? So it's not self-indulgent
Right.
to take good care of ourselves physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It's okay to do that. In fact, we should.
It's exactly, like if you're in an airplane and the oxygen masks drop, you're instructed to put it on yourself before you put it on your child, which is kind of, I think as a parent, you're like, oh, I don't know. But it's true. We can't be of service or operate if we're not taking care of ourselves. And I like that analogy, Marcella, of the oil tanker. It's not going to go anywhere if there's no gas in it to operate it. So that's very, very true. And back to what you were saying, Lisa, I've known you for quite a while, and have been fortunate to, and Marcella, not as long, but fortunate to know both of you. And when it comes to heartache, our spirit is really tested, and that's not something new to you. And I have such admiration for you and Lisa, knowing what you've gone through in many, many ways, and you still show up with a smile. You still show up. And Marcella, I don't know that much about you and your history, but you always show up with a smile too. And so because there's a sense of being able to envision what life may look like, not necessarily on the other side of these problems, but to be able to have to envision a landing place, just some place where we can land after all of this is done, with whatever heartache there is, with whatever trouble there is, with whatever good stuff there is, being able to envision not only that there is a place to land, but what that might look like. And I think being able to envision having love in our lives, having joy, having contentment, having moments of happiness, not necessarily happiness all the time, because I think that's unrealistic. Much of the time, we have pockets of happiness. We have longer times, I think, of feeling content. So there are, how we approach the trouble in our lives makes all the difference in the world. And what I try to work with people on is what's possible. I do a lot of work, Reunification Therapy, which is working with children of divorced parents where the child or the children want nothing to do with one of the parents. And so there's a lot of healing that needs to take place. And many times when I work with the kids, they just say, I don't want anything to do with my mom or my dad. I just don't. I don't ever want to see him again. I don't want to visit. I don't want to talk. I just don't want anything. And so one of the things that we try to focus on is what is possible, not what's existing now, but what is possible. And I think when we can think about and focus on what's possible, that just opens the doors that we need to have open to help us believe that there is, a light at the end of the tunnel, whatever tunnel we're going through. And most of the time, there is a light. I'm sure there are times when there isn't. Being realistic here, but I think most of the time there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And if we can envision what that might look like, it just feels better. We feel more hopeful.
Yes. And thank you for those kind words. There have been a lot of dark days. Anybody that knows a little bit about my personal life will understand that. And you talk about the darkness, and there have been times when I look up into the sky just so I could see a glimmer of a star, right? There is light. There is light in the darkness. And sometimes you just have to envision the next step, the next day, that even if it's just envisioning putting your feet on the ground and your feet moving, it is important that you be able to mentally know that there is a next step. There will be another day, and to look for those glimmers of light. I can remember on some of the darkest days, and beautiful sunshine outside, but to me it was dark because things were very difficult in my life. and going outside and saying, I'm going to find something of beauty, something to be grateful for. And many times it was just a tiny little weed with a little flower in it. And I'd pull that weed, or I'd get down on the ground and look at it and examine this amazing structure that came out within this weed, of beautiful colors and intricate little details, and just say thanks to the universe, to God, to whatever your higher power is, that this exists. Among all the hardship in the world, something of beauty exists. So it will get better, folks. It will get better. And it starts with taking care of you.
Mm.
And Deborah has given us some amazing things to think about today. Do you have any more visualization that you can help folks with in this?
Yes, and let me just come before I answer that question real quickly. I just want to say something about you, Lisa. In the midst of the darkest times in your life, you have still, you've put that foot in front. You haven't waited for someone to do it for you. You've have a lot of people who love you, who support you, but there's something about you that gets you going. There's something about you that has been purposeful and driven, that regardless of the darkness, you're going to look for the light. And it's incredible what you've done. So to be able to just, if anything, envision the light like you're talking about is tremendous.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Taking it beyond that, I know that when I work with people who are going through divorce, I'll ask them, let's say they have to move. What do they envision? Like, let's say it's an apartment or another house, or you have to rent, or whatever it is. What do you like? What do you want the color of the walls to look like? What kind of furniture could you envision? What's the color palette? Just have something. You may not know fully what it looks like, but to have an idea of what this landing place, if it's temporary, that's fine. It's a landing place, and you go from that to the next step. So to be able to envision, what really does this look like?
Mm-hmm.
Again, even the color on the walls is so important, because what surrounds you, is it bright white? Is it dark? Is it kind of yellow like the sun? Really to envision what those next steps might look like for you. Because I think if we don't have something to attach ourselves to, it's harder to find that to push ourselves to move forward. So envisioning, I have found helpful, just for myself too, in all different circumstances. It just helps to connect us to where we want to be.
And I totally agree with that. And in fact, I have always, when I wanted to make a shift, a change in my life, created a dream board, a vision board,
Mm-hmm.
and collected magazines, pictures that just spoke to me, words that spoke to me. And over time, I would collect these as I see them. I still do this.
Mm.
And when I feel like I'm ready, I've completed most of what was on my prior vision board, it's time for a new one. I'll sit down, and it creates a story of its own. And I actually use the words and the pictures and intertwine them to envision the next step, the next chapter in my life. So that's very powerful, because now you have this visual item that you can look at every day and say, this is where I'm going next. And it's very, very powerful. Also, soul collaging is another technique, but I am a literally visual person, and I love to have those word reminders and picture reminders. So that is something that then you can focus on in your mind, and those pictures can keep you there.
That's super. So that takes it even beyond just having it in your head. You put it to paper, you put it down, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, this has been so much fun.
Mhm.
Marcella, how are we on time here? Is it about?
We have 1 minute.
Okay, well, we are perfect, Dr.
I didn't want
Deborah.
to cut you off.
Oh.
Cut you off, but we have 1 minute actually to wrap up the show. So
Okay.
this
Well,
information was so important, and we do show the support materials that we have every week. So this time, if we don't get to show everything, you can look at a past or future episode to get the information of where you can find this. I am going to just very quickly share my screen, if that's okay with you ladies.
absolutely.
I do want to just at least give everyone an idea of where you can go for some of these resources. Please visit divorcetownusa.com. There's articles, there's a roadmap, There's, I know Dr. Deborah herself has written quite a few articles for Divorce Town. Go there, look them up, find what speaks to you. There's webinars, there's all kinds of things that we've tried to make available to you to help you through this part of the journey. If you are going through divorce and there are financial issues, please visit divorcemoneymatters.com and you can download a free kit there that will help you get organized and get focused for that particular aspect of the divorce process as well. As Dr. Deborah mentioned, we do have a support group. It is free. It is national, sometimes even international at this point. So please feel free to sign up for that through meetup.com. And we would love to see you at one of our monthly meetings. Finally, this is what we have to look forward to next week. We have a superstar guest, Bella Gandhi. She's going to talk to us about dating after divorce. So once we survive Valentine's Day, and if and when we are ready, how and when and who do we do it with? So we look forward to sharing that with you guys next week. We want to thank all of you for being here with us. Thank you so much for joining our show. As you know, we really do make an effort to help America and indeed the world divorce better, one family at a time. We'll see you next week, everyone.
See you next week. Bye-bye.